So this film's story begins 800 years ago. In an old desert, we see a spaceship. Due to the landing of the spaceship, there is a terrible storm in the desert, and the people nearby start running to save their lives. Among the people who ran, there was a girl, whose necklace fell to the ground while running. After the scene cuts, the story comes to the present time. 800 years have passed, the place where this spaceship landed. The research is taking place at the same place, and the boy named Wu gets the same necklace, which fell from the girl's neck. The professor says while investigating that this necklace is very old, and it may be very valuable. Wu is happy to know this. After a while, a man named John comes there, and says that whatever you get here is my possession. In response, Wu says, "Where are you from?" "This place belongs to China, and whatever we get from here will belong to the Chinese government." John leaves from there after being bothered by this. We know that Wu and his professor's team have been researching here for many years. After the research, they found out that there was a city called Loulan hundreds of years ago. They also found some pieces of wood there. When they combine it, they get a map of the city of Loulan. Looking at this map and the necklace of the girl, the professor made a story. The condition of the city below the ground was telling that there must have been a famine there 800 years ago. And this necklace was only worn by the monk at that time. Their monk, the religious master, was a girl, and she had this necklace. When the famine struck, the monk ran towards the temple, but then she died in the storm. The scene cuts to the past, where we see the same monk, about whom Wu and his team were talking. The monk's name was YaMan, who was running away from the storm with her companions. These people reached the temple with difficulty, but Chen's condition was very bad. We know that Chen was the king of the city of Lulan, but now his condition was bad. He was breathing his last. And during this time he says to YaMan that to stay away from my brother, he's not a good person. Chen dies after saying this, and YaMan goes inside the temple in grief. She was praying to God, that please God save this city from the famine. As she was praying, the lamps in the temple were burning, and suddenly a bright light came out of a glass inside the temple, as if it was the sun, and then suddenly the glass falls on the ground and breaks. YaMan thinks that God wants to say something to him through this glass, but the scene cuts to the present. We see Wu in the present. Wu and his professor's team, after collecting all the old things from the city of Lulan, were going back to the university, unknowingly that there is someone behind them. Here, two people were hiding in their train who were actually the companions of their enemy, John. John actually wanted to keep all the things from the city of Lulan, because the city of Lulan has been finished 800 years ago, and if in today's time someone searches for it, then he will be given a big reward from the government. John wanted to get all the things from the city of Lulan and get the reward from the government. It is shown that the men of John were going to shoot Wu, because Wu had saved the things from the city of Lulan. Before they kill Wu, suddenly all the passengers on the train stand up. They had pistols in their hands, and we came to know that they were actually Chinese soldiers, who pick up both their companions, who throw them out of the train. After which Wu starts checking his stuff. As soon as he opens the suitcase, he sees the same mirror that we saw 800 years ago with YaMan. He got scared when he saw this mirror because it was broken, and he thought maybe it happened because of him. But he doesn't know the truth that this mirror was broken. He brought this mirror to his house. Even after trying a lot, the mirror was not fixed. The scene cuts, and we are shown YaMan again, who was praying to God to fix everything. As soon as she prays, we see that there is a weird magic happening in the mirror, and the mirror starts fixing itself. In the present time, the mirror of Wu also started fixing. The light was also emerging from this mirror. Suddenly, Wu hears a girl's voice. He looked around, but there was no girl there, so he got scared, and when he looked in the mirror, he saw YaMan. Through this mirror, YaMan was able to see Wu, and Yu was able to see YaMan. It was clear that this mirror had connected the two timelines. YaMan thinks that Wu is a god, so she starts praying to him. Wu was not getting who YaMan was, and how did she get inside this mirror? To find out the answer, he starts looking at YaMan's background. He sees some pictures in YaMan's background, He saw these pictures on the map of Loulan city, and now he understood without wasting time that this mirror has connected the two timelines, and he is able to see Loulan city 800 years ago. He tells YaMan that he is not a god, but a common man who is talking to the future. He requests YaMan that can you show me your surroundings. YaMan does this. After which he asks YaMan a lot of questions about Loulan city, and YaMan answers all his questions. The things that people wanted to know about Loulan city. Through YaMan, Wu was able to find out. He was very happy to know all this. He found all the answers. But before he could ask YaMan anything else, he sees that YaMan is not feeling well. He goes to his fridge to get something to eat, and gives it to YaMan. YaMan also puts her hand inside the mirror and grabs it, and starts eating it, and it was very tasty. YaMan had never eaten anything like this before. While eating, YaMan starts talking to Wu, and after a while, there is a good understanding between them. We're shown that within no time, Wu writes a book on Loulan city by the information he gets from YaMan. To do such a big research, Wu is given a big reward from the government. In this ceremony, we see John was also there, who was also very surprised by Wu's success. He was not able to understand how Wu found out so many truths so quickly. He understands that there is a secret behind this. Anyway, we see that Wu goes back to his house. And through the mirror, he contacts YaMan again. Today, YaMan looked very sad. Wu asks, "What happened to you?" YaMan replies that there has been a big destruction here, which the bad king wants to kill. He understands that YaMan is talking about aliens. They must have come here in a spaceship, and the king must have killed the aliens. When they were talking, we see that Wu's companion was outside the door. We hear all their conversations. Before she comes in, John's people kidnap her. And now, through this girl, John finds out the secret of Wu, that how he wrote a book on Loulan city so quickly. That's why John sends his 2 men to Wu's house to steal the mirror. Here we see that Wu was sleeping with the mirror. He doesn't keep the mirror away from him. Because he fell in love with YaMan. Without seeing YaMan, without talking to her, he couldn't sleep. Through this mirror, YaMan became a part of his life, a very important part. Every night Wu used to recite a poem to her. Without listening to it, YaMan couldn't sleep now. Even after YaMan sleeps, he used to keep looking at YaMan. Now even in his dreams, YaMan used to come. Here we see that John's 2 men sneaked into Wu's house. But luckily, Wu found out about their arrival, and Wu ran away from the window behind his room with his mirror. He hides on a side and tries to tell YaMan his condition through the mirror. That is how a man named John is behind him, who wants to take this mirror. Before he could say anything else, John puts his hand on Wu's shoulder and takes the mirror from his hand. John's men catch Wu. While on the other side, we see that, even in YaMan's temple, Loulan's bad king's soldiers caught YaMan, and because of their separation, the portal of this mirror was closed. YaMan is now taken to the king, and the king asks her about the truth of this mirror. YaMan doesn't say anything, but his soldiers say that this is a magical mirror through which we can go to heaven. But only YaMan can open this mirror because it is a monk. The king now takes YaMan to the temple of God. This wasn't actually the temple of God, but it was an alien spaceship, in which they killed the aliens and tied them up. In the present, we see that John is taking Wu to the alien spaceship. He goes to the alien spaceship and asks Wu to open the portal of this mirror. While 800 years ago, the same thing was happening with YaMan. The king was asking her to open the portal of the mirror. At different times, both YaMan and Wu climb on the alien spaceship. And as soon as they take the mirror and go in front of their mouths, a storm of light begins to come. A portal opens here and both timelines meet, because of which now Wu and YaMan were able to see each other. They face each other. As soon as he sees YaMan, Wu hugs her. YaMan was also emotional after seeing him, because YaMan also started loving him. After this, he takes YaMan away from him and says, "Everything will be fine, don't worry." John gets angry seeing all this, and in anger, he shoots him. By shooting him, the portal closed. On the other hand, 800 years ago, YaMan was also captured by the king's soldiers. Wu, whose shoulder was shot, and his companions rescue him. And as soon as the portal closes, the king and his soldiers come to the world of the future. It is shown that YaMan was 800 years ago, and as soon as the king came here, the portal was closed. The bad king asks John, "Is this heaven?" John says, "Yes, this is heaven, and I am your God." Hearing this, the bad king gets angry, because he wanted to become God himself. He takes his soldier's weapon and kills one of John's men in anger. In this way, a war breaks out between John and the king. The king's soldiers had old weapons, while John's people had ordinary pistols. Before the war between them took a different form, suddenly a storm of sand comes here, and all of them get stuck in this storm. Luckily, Wu and his companions, who had already run away from here, have survived this storm. After the scene is cut, we are shown a scene from many years later. Wu is now old. He has come here again because research is still going on here. Another team was doing research here, and they found more old things here. Wu picks one of them and looks at it. There was something written in ancient language. After talking to YaMan, he knew the ancient language. That is why he was easily able to read this language. On this stone the same poem was written, which was told to YaMan in ancient times. This was written by YaMan, and when he sees this, he gets tears in his eyes. And while looking at this piece, Wu realized that YaMan did not die that day while the portal was closed. She was alive and she spent the rest of her life remembering Wu. He also smiles while remembering YaMan, and this movie story ends here.